everyone, and welcome to Gamer's Ledge. I'm your host, Mark, but I will be a player tonight. We'll throw it over to John, our DM, in just a moment. I've got a couple top of show announcements, and there's Doug.
Hi.
So I get to redraw boxes on screen. My favorite. We'll do that here in a second as well. First, I wanted to start off by thanking all of our new followers on Twitch. It's a little nuts. We broke 1,000 followers on Twitter this week, which is insane. And then we're just past 700 followers on Twitch. We're on our way to our goal of 750 by March 20th, which is my birthday. It looks like it might be possible. It's going to be close. We're also in a friendly race with 3 other streamers of similar size to hit 1,000 followers on Twitch. So if you know someone that may enjoy the shows, please do send them our way. Welcome in everybody that's coming in. Shank the new Neo Sapien, Wolf's Gun. Welcome to the stream. I also want to give out a huge shout out to Mr. J Nice for his extremely generous $50 contribution towards our annual goal for Streamers for Kids, which is a charity that we have joined that supports Extra Life, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's a charity that helps sick kids who are in the hospital by providing them with gaming equipment so that what they're in for isn't quite as unbearable. If you would like to make a donation, all you have to do is go to our Twitch page, twitch.tv/gamersledge, and scroll down where you see the giant symbol for program schedule. Just click on that. It'll take you right to the donation form. I also want to thank our new followers on Twitch in the last 2 days. Descent Digital, Void Rider, Chip Michael 8, Jamma Master MJ, Matt Chaser, Just Reefy, Hot Topic B, Melly the Bearded Dragon, the Dave Black, Merc the Nerd 42, Rise Kyle Northwest, Arcane by Assassin, John Blaze, Team DGW, Mitch SG Live, Uchi Hans, Thickfish 2, Sakura, Tank Top 32, Black Samurai Za, Parzival 1701, The Fixated, Sensei Grayson, Krudo Jota, TML for Life 420, The Lefty 2319, Blue Girl TV, Retro Sega 81, Rye Fry 90, Pog Pung, Bluey Wolfie, Play with Anna, and Vonnie. Other than that, welcome to the stream, everybody. It is the Suede edition. We will not have any point redemption items other than, if you would, please do go under the points, channel points, and choose the check-in to be shouted out after the fact. Twitch chat does not go back very far. And so, as such, if you would check in, it would be very helpful for us. It costs 1 point, and that's down there. And that is it. With that all out of the way, I will go ahead. Thank you for checking in, Ghost from the Night. I will go ahead and throw it over to our DM, John, as I redraw boxes on stream real quick.
Hey, thank you, Mark. Thank you for joining us. This is our initial foray into this game. And to start out the first session, we're going to do what all game masters, what all players should do when they're starting a new campaign, and we're just going to talk. And we thought, wouldn't it be interesting to have that conversation on the stream? And so my opinion, and opinion of a lot of other game masters, is when you're starting a campaign, you should get together with your players. You should have a conversation about, okay, what game are we playing? What system are we playing? And what's kind of the basic history of the game world? And then as a game master, what's my kind of view? What am I expecting out of the game? And what is kind of, am I thinking about the hook? And then we're going to let the players talk about, okay, these are my thoughts on what each of them are going to have their thoughts on what they were thinking about as players or as characters, because we've not even made characters yet. And so they're going to be able to say, okay, well, I was kind of thinking about this. I was kind of thinking about this. And so collectively, they're going to be able to develop their own ideas and even to be able to kind of make their party mesh or not mesh is whatever they decide, right? So that's what we're doing today. We're just having a conversation again that should probably be the conversation game masters and players have before they start a new campaign. So with that said, I want to say you've already heard from Mark. I want to say hello to Doug.
Hi.
Say hello to Chris. I mean, yeah. Wow, Daniel.
I now know where I sit. Touche for showing me my place.
Since this is a conversation, I hate the Wild West, so that's a good starting point, right? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Actually, I'm excited about this because my mom was a huge Western fan. And because she was a huge Western fan, by the time I was like 8, I hated all Westerns because it's the only thing we ever watched when I was growing up. Now, that being said, there are certain things in the genre that actually I love. One of them being, what was the HBO show that started off really well and then went horrible? Westworld.
Right.
The whole idea of the assassin killing, Marshall or not, bad guy. I really like that, the fact that he was so ominous. And so that's I think the fact that this is the Weird West as opposed to the Wild West. And for people that are completely unfamiliar with the setting, it's kind of a revisionist Wild West if things went really wrong. And you have like ghosts and monsters and nuclear radiated monsters and
We'll get there.
yeah.
We'll get there.
So this is far more interesting to me than a straight Western would be. So I'm interested to learn more about what I don't know about the series. I have played it once that would have been like 18 years ago.
Deadlands?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never played it.
Really?
Yeah.
I played it with somebody in the shop. So yeah.
That's funny that you say that. My father was really big into Westerns, both novelizations, movies, and television shows, and music, and that's why I hated it growing up. But as I've gotten older, I've started really to love the genre, and anything that I can sprinkle sci-fi into, I'm a fan of. So,
Yeah, I've always loved Westerns. I've always loved. I obviously have some favorites going way back. John Wayne. My favorite John Wayne is Angel and the Bad Man, a black and white. Obviously, I like Rooster Cogburn, but I'm also a huge fan of the spaghetti westerns and a huge fan of all the Clint Eastwood movies. Probably of the Clint Eastwood movies, my favorite is probably The Outlaw Josie Wales. And so yeah. Anyway,
what about you, Doug?
I don't think I really got into Westerns until The Unforgiven. That was my favorite. And also Tombstone, of course.
And a surprisingly good modern take on the Western is the Stephen King's The Stand, the miniseries that came out a while ago. They literally have a character named the Gunslinger, and it's almost supernatural what he does, and there's actually parallels to the...
In The Stand?
Am I thinking of the wrong one?
What's
the one with the tower? Black Tower.
Yeah.
Black Tower.
Black Tower. Sorry, I meant Black Tower.
Dark Tower.
Dark Tower. Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Dark Tower. Yes.
So
sorry.
Just so you know, that's his magnum opus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good series that takes into a whole bunch of other things into account as well. But yes, absolutely, and it's written amazingly too.
Yeah, and the Gunslinger, like seeing if you've not watched the miniseries that just came out, seeing that come to life, chef's kiss, really, really good. Yeah, there was a miniseries not long ago.
I've only seen the movie.
God, I don't think it was a. Oh, yeah, I guess it was a movie then, wasn't it? My bad. I am like all over the place today. I'm sorry. Yes, the movie. I thought it was the series. Don't they have more than like one?
They have like 15 books.
Yeah, but they didn't make more than the one movie. Oh, okay. All right.
Wasn't it Idris Elba
Yes.
playing the gunslinger?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I think is so awesome about the West and about Westerns is when you learn the real history, it kind of breaks so many stereotypes that we have, right? Like, Daniel and I were talking about this, but if you look at who the actual inspiration for the Lone Ranger was, right? Who was that? Well, it actually was an escaped slave who went to the Arkansas territories and became a state marshal and hunted convicts. And that was Marshall Bass. Probably, so many of the tough guy stereotype Western lawman is based on him. And so, there's just some really kind of really amazing things about the West and really kind of, like I said, stereotype breaking when you really learn the real history. It's awesome.
Well, the funny part is we're actually going to go the complete opposite direction. We're not going to look at the realism. We're going to go to the insane. So, I mean, I don't want to like say what we should do, but can we get into the background a little bit? Because I want to know what's possible, because I have a character concept in mind, and I've actually, it's gone further since we've talked, Sean, but right. I want to know what there is per se.
Okay, well, yeah, let's talk about that. So, in Deadlands, I'm planning on using. Well, that's not what I wanted to happen. I'm planning on using the standard timeline. So the game is going to take place in 1884.
Okay.
And so the alternate timeline for Deadlands basically starts in 1861, right? 1861, the Civil War begins. 1863, the Union outlaws slavery. You had the Battle of Gettysburg, and then 1863 also the Texas Rangers are reassigned to start investigating these weird events, right? 1865, President Lincoln is assassinated. Andrew Johnson takes office. In 1868, and this is a variation of the Deadlands from our normal, is 1868 is the Great Quake. Cracks open California and creates a great maze. And that's when Ghost Rock is discovered, right? And we'll talk about Ghost Rock in a minute. 1869, Ulysses S. Grant is elected president. And 1870, there's a man named Hellstrom arrives in Deseret, which is a town. A
town like in Utah, I think.
Yeah.
The Utah area.
I have that up. Let me look. Ogden, where is Deseret?
In the Utah area.
Huh, it's not on the map.
Oh, did you already get to 1866?
I don't know.
Because Utah is the independent nation of Deseret in 1866. That's what you have up on the screen. That's the only reason I know. It was right before. Right. It was before the Great Quake.
Okay, you're right. All right, there you go. Where are we? Oh yeah, Hellstrom Rising, Deseret, Battle of Washington, 1871. The Confederate States surrender on April 9th. Apata, Appomattox, Virginia, and then 1871. You have the Great Rail Wars, and so that's kind of a big deal. And you have um, the Wasatch Rail and all these other rails competing to be the rail. And from that, we have a whole bunch of cities formed, established. Takes us up to 1876 with Reverend Grime establishes the free and holy city of Lost Angels in California. And in 1877, Rutherford B. Hayes is elected president. 1879, we have the Battle of Lost Angels. The Wasatch Rail wins the Great Rail Wars. 1880, the Great Flood ravages Los Angeles and the Maze. And 1881, the Great Summoning. Technology ceases to function inside the borders of the Sioux Nations forever. 1881 is also President James A. Garfield is assassinated after 6 months of his term, and Chester A. Arthur takes office. 1882, U.S. passes the Chinese Exclusion Act. 1883, Hellstrom enters seclusion, and then 1884 is now. So
I have a very large question.
Yeah.
The technology not working inside of the Sioux Nations at all. Does that go as far as basic items like guns?
I can field this if you'd like, John.
Yeah, I actually read it, but go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. By all means.
Yeah, you take a wagon and try to run your wagon through which is the first example given in the section where they talk about it, is, you take your wagon, try to go through the Sioux Nations, and the wheels are going to fall off.
That's okay. That answers that question.
So the Sioux Nations is a fairly large area right in the center, mostly like the Dakotas in Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Montana, Dakota, Wyoming, and a little bit of Nebraska. It's actually north of Colorado.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so, okay, that answers that question.
So,
but I would imagine arrowheads tied to, lashed to sticks would still work, because that's not.
So, yeah, handmade things.
Right.
So, your reins on your horse might fall apart if they're, if
they're pressed versus tied.
Yes.
Got it.
Right. So, but you go there and you're going to find that their leather work is fantastic because it's all hand, and they're not going to have a problem with that.
What it comes down to is anything not made by Native Americans. That's what it comes down to.
I mean, that's solely, no, I like it. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Anything to add to that, Daniel?
So that while there is the Sioux Nation, right, there's another area called the my brain, and I don't have the maps.
The Coyote Confederation.
Yeah, and it's not the same there, and that's a much smaller area to the south.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's basically Coyote Confederation is the eastern half of Oklahoma, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's very okay. Yeah, I can work with that.
Which ironically that's the area that Bass, the gentleman I talked about earlier, actually operated in. He went into a lot of the Native American areas in that area and hunted criminals. Because that was a common thing for criminals to go to places where they thought the law couldn't follow them. But so there was this thing called the Great Reckoning, and some people aren't going to know about this. Your characters are going to know a little about this, and that caused strange things to start happening. Now you're not sure, your characters aren't going to be sure what caused the Great Reckoning. And but that's you know there was one. You know that there's evil spirits or demons or something that are doing bad things. You know that one of the interesting things about Deadlands, from a well, I'll talk about from a game mechanic point of view and then from a lore point of view. So from the game mechanic view, certain areas have fear levels.
Okay.
And as you go into, and the higher the fear level, then it changes kind of the reality of that particular area. And so all the way to the highest level where a tree might pick you up and eat you, right? So, but you know, and at the lowest level, it's just kind of that your skin's kind of prickly, and you know, it's like, man, I feel like somebody's watching me or something. You know, it just kind of just that unquiet feeling a person might have. So that's from the game mechanic level. And acts of heroism and rally and being able to speak and just calm people down, right? Because a lot of the fear level is just that. The local population is worried about something, and so it's their perception. So if you can change the perception to a positive, you can actually change the fear level.
I like this. This is actually like Mage's Paradox, except that you can control it in ways, or you can affect it, I guess is the best way to say that. But if you're not familiar with Paradox, you know, the reason people can't cast a lightning bolt in Times Square is because no one believes it. And so it's people's belief backlashing on the person trying to do that. So this kind of sounds very similar in that it's almost a way to affect the town and the folks around it by, you know, if you get them on your side, if they believe you can do it, then you can do it. So that's kind of interesting to me. I like that.
Yeah. So the people in the West have started to call these evil spirits, they call them Manitou. And which is it an Algonquin word? I don't know. A Native American word of some type, but that is the word they've attached to kind of these evil spirits. And that's what causes and what drives a lot of these weird, strange things that are going on, or some kind of Manitou of some level. By the way, Daniel, please feel free to jump in if I'm missing something or you have a different spin on it.
Okay.
So matter of fact, what else should I say here?
There's a pretty fine line between what the marshal, the GM, knows, and what the players know, because the players learn some of this stuff in play. So I'm not sure where you want that line to be, but overall, you're absolutely right. The Manitou are there's a lot of people. So even though the fear is kind of boiling in the air around a lot of these places, especially some of these larger towns, and horrific stuff may have happened there are still a lot of people who don't believe anything is actually wrong. They don't believe there are monsters. They don't believe that there are evil spirits. They don't believe any of that. Even though it may be happening all around them, they turn a blind eye to it, or believe that if they're innocent, then they're safe. So that's part of why being able to talk them up, like you were saying, John, is kind of important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. And if you guys have questions, by the way, make sure you're doing it, Peter. Um, that's an interesting thought there, Rick Stevens.
Yep.
Um,
I'm interested to. Okay, so shall we talk about? I got a dog barking outside my window. Hold on. Were you guys able to hear that or no?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, good, perfect. Yay! Or unidirectional mics for the win.
I was gonna say if I have to be this close to the mic, I wonder.
Yeah,
how it's
no,
picking that up.
yeah, that's true. Okay, that's no. Hi, Nadiko. Welcome to the stream. I'm interested to. Okay, so we have the timeline. I guess where are we going to be established in this? Would be my next question.
What do you mean?
Well, we have all
Well,
these.
what-
I mean, are we
In order to consider what kind of characters we want to make,
right?
what ideas do you have for the campaign so that we know kind of
Okay.
where the
All
lines
right.
are?
Yeah. So my inspiration when I thought, and we don't want to dwell on this, but I guess maybe for some of your longtime viewers, we want to just we'll just briefly address it, but we just felt with ongoing real world situation, it just wouldn't be right for us to continue to have our Ukraine Rifts campaign, and so we've put that on the shelf, and it you know we hope that someday we can bring it back off the shelf. But so when I started to look at, okay, what are we going to replace? What game do I want to run? I actually went through a long list of things, and and we finally landed on Deadlands. And then I thought, okay, well, for me, as a game master, for me, I kind of need a hook. What's my inspiration? What's kind of for me the base part of the story, or what is I need some kind of inspiration. And matter of fact, my inspiration was the TV show, not the movie, but the TV show, Wild Wild West. It's a TV show I grew up with, that I absolutely loved, that my mother loved, and I watched it, and the longer it ran, the weirder it got. And it had a whole lot of steampunk, it had a whole lot of weird, and I just thought that was a really great show. Now, the other inspiration I had was just the thought of, what if everybody belongs to the same organization, right? Which is kind of isn't always done in a role-playing game, right? So I thought, well, what if everybody is a U.S. Marshal? And which is what we ended up doing. Now, in the game, in the canon, you have U.S. agents, which kind of grew up out of the Pinkerton private investigation agency, and is actually headed by Mr. Pinkerton. And then the other thing is, the U.S. government looked at the success of the Texas Rangers and decided, oh, we can do that, and created U.S. Rangers, and which is, of course, Deadlands timeline, not real timeline. And so in the game, they talk about U.S. Marshals kind of take east of the Mississippi, and U.S. Rangers take west of the Mississippi, and kind of the weird stuff. And so that is the only place where I'm kind of breaking with actual game lore, although it does specifically say that, just second, Mark, that Rangers go east and Marshals go west. It's just where they tend to hang out. Yes, sir.
I like the idea of us being U.S. Marshals going west.
This must be a pun joke that I'm
No,
just not getting.
no. Like, keep it where the marshals go east and the rangers go
watching.
west. But we're 3 U.S. marshals that are being sent west.
Yes, absolutely, and that is it. That is it.
Okay.
Yes,
If we're out of our
Marcia says it's
jurisdiction.
just
Right,
like,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
we don't maybe get support from the Rangers or anybody else because we're not welcome there because we're marshals and we're supposed to be east of the Mississippi, not west of it.
There's some rivalries in the book, but the U.S. agents, the U.S. Rangers, and the Marshals do tend to work together.
Okay.
But there's also, any cop show you've ever seen is, the FBI rolls in and says, well, this is our case now. There is that kind of rivalry. But there's not a I'm going to shoot you because you came into my town rivalry.
Right.
Right. It's well, I'm after this guy. This is my collar. And so that's it. Is my thought was, okay, I want to kind of do the Wild Wild West, and I am thinking that you guys will have your own train, just like out of the Wild Wild West TV show. Um, and you're all going to be marshals. Now, there is in the book there is a character class for U.S. Marshal, but you don't have to use that, right? And the other thing is that I see us going one of two ways, and I'm okay with either. And if one of you wants to be a, you know, broad shoulder lawman, whatever, then that person might be the marshal, right? And then if somebody wants to be a Native American scout, or somebody wants to be a huckster, or somebody wants to whatever else, those people are probably going to be deputy marshals, right? Because usually you have one marshal and then he has people that assist him, which are badged as deputy marshals, and he can do that on the spot, or he can have agents kind of working for him, and which is historical, by the way, but also kind of um, I get from a role playing game or from a tabletop war game, Warhammer 40K, which is how you have an Inquisitor and then you have the Inquisitor's acolytes, is kind of how I think about it in my brain. So one, if one of you want to be that guy, then okay, that person can be the marshal. Um, but if you're all something different, which is awesome, then my thought is that the marshal will be the NPC that kind of says, okay, I need you to go do this for me. And you're his deputy marshals that are going out doing the investigation and stuff while he's running kind of a bigger picture.
Can one of us be a large department store filled with goods and clothing?
A marshals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't marshals have different names in different parts of the country?
Maybe.
Like
Are they like Carl's Jr.'s and Hardee's? I didn't know that.
I think so.
I know. All I know is that I want my character to be big and tall.
Sorry. I can only be serious for like 15 minutes. My bad.
I know. We know this.
Yes. Hi, Doug. Welcome to the game. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my thought, and I actually have another inspiration for the game that I'm not going to share, but that is driving kind of how I plan on introducing things to you, and I don't know how it would work from a viewer sense, but maybe if somebody can pick that out, we'll give them a no prize or something. But yeah, So any questions about my thoughts on the campaign or thoughts or whatever? Doug, what are you thinking there?
About my character or about the setting?
About the setting, about the campaign, about what I was talking about my idea for kind of the setup for the player characters. Any of it?
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. You said we were going to be set after the Civil War, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's actually going to be 1884, and
so the Civil War goes on a lot longer in this time period.
Well, in this time period, the Civil War ended in 1871.
Okay, so yeah.
So we're quick math. What, 13 years past the Civil War?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So.
Yeah, kind of, Sir Iron Blood. Yes. Yeah, kind of. You're not far off. Sir Iron Blood asked USA 1884 with magic. And yeah, it's going to kind of magic and steampunkish, yes.
So that's actually, yeah, that was actually going to be one of my follow-up questions with steampunk. Because that, as far as I remember, from what I remember of it, that was not specifically like called out. If I could be just, it's been 18 years since I read the book. So
where you kind of get the steampunk elements in Deadlands is, along with the Reckoning, along with the change, what happened is this thing called Ghost Rock appeared, and it looks physically, it looks like lumps of coal with white streaks through it. It burns a lot hotter than coal, and so a lot of devices that somebody might think up are powered by Ghost Rock.
Got it.
And so that's where the steampunk thing comes in, is wacky, weird things powered by Ghost Rock.
I already know what I'm spending points on to develop and create to go on the train powered by Ghost Rock.
Ghost Rock is not cheap. Mm-hmm. But after the earthquake that John was talking about, it started showing up in various locations. It is not cheap. But it's one of the things I love is that it burns hotter, but when it is burning, it shrieks. Like hell and damnation.
That's best.
And other than making things hot, it also allows for some strange effects on gear and inventions. So there are some inventions, like the equivalent of night vision goggles, for example, that use Ghost Rock, but not burning. It like depletes Ghost Rock, but doesn't burn Ghost Rock. It still uses it, but it's not like I put night vision goggles on and it burns my vision out.
Okay.
Stuff like that. Super neat.
Although bad things can happen if you have a critical failure.
Although bad things can happen, yes, like burning your eyes out.
Dope. Yeah. So, and we kind of said at the beginning, but I'll say again, you're right, Terror Engine. There are mad scientists, absolutely. Yes, and so that's a part of the setting, and working for good, working for evil, and we are just. I wanted to say it again. We're using the Suede Saving Worlds Adventure Edition of Deadlands, and currently I'm working on PDFs. When we decided to do this, I pledged the latest Kickstarter, and so looking forward to getting those books probably in May. I hope. Knock on wood. And
I think they're backwards. And that's why it's hurting my ears.
And
Yeah, that's better.
You're killing me. Daniel just realized this whole time he's had his headset backwards. That's why it's hurting him.
So with that said, unless you have anything else you want to say about the setting, Daniel?
Um. So there are sections in this book that talk about how, because of things that have happened and because of the fearful nature of the world and because of wanting to make sure that people don't feel set upon by other things that were happening during this time period, you and I discussed the fact that while racism exists, we're not going to be making that a huge focal point. But also, gender is not a huge thing in this game anyway. It's not a huge thing. There's actually a sidebar that talks about how heroes and wild cards, which is what the adventurers are called in Savage Worlds, can come from really any gender, and there isn't really gender. There is gender inequality, but they don't focus on it, even though it was happening kind of big at this time in our world.
Yeah, anytime you're doing historical role playing, even when it's Weird West, it's still based on our actual history. There are some social avenues you can go down, but for the most part, this is an alternate timeline. This is an alternate world. And, this is about a silly game and about having some fun and not really about exploring social injustices or whatever. And so I do like to include some real history if possible in certain places, and I you'll see that I'm already starting to build what I imagine is our first adventure, and there's going to be some real history in that, but for the most part, this is Deadlands. This is not, this is Deadlands 1884. This is not the United States 1884.
Right.
And yeah, good point, Daniel.
Well, do we all three want to be marshals? Because I kind of like that idea, but I don't want to push anybody.
So I can tell you right now, if I go with the character that I have already written up a background on and sent to John, I will not be a marshal.
Okay.
But I could easily see myself wearing like a deputy badge, or I have volunteered to assist and help with my services.
Got it. What are you thinking, Doug?
What are you thinking, Doug? Let's good time to talk about characters, I guess.
Like I said, my favorite Western is Tombstone. So I was definitely thinking of kind of a Doc Holliday type character where he's kind of a gambler and a gunslinger. And maybe he was friends with one of the marshals, and they said, hey, we're going to need you as an extra set of guns. So congratulations, you're a deputy now type thing. And maybe he was a veteran of the Civil War, or I haven't quite decided yet, but just a kind of pretty generic gunslinger character.
So,
okay, are you going to be a dentist too?
No.
So,
like I said, I was thinking either he was a Civil War vet, or he was grew up in high society and on New York or something, and decided that he was bored with it, like a bored rich kid.
Okay.
So I have a question, John and Doug. Being that we're playing in an alternate universe, could Doug play Doc Holliday? This universe's version of Doc Holliday.
I kind of wanted to put my own spin on the character, not just be.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. It's a universe in which Screaming Cole creates steampunk, you can make however you want it. I was just wondering. And I'm asking that not just for you, Doug, but for any of us.
Well, I guess my overarching question is, we can be the marshal and not be the marshal class, correct?
If I'm going to have somebody be the actual no kidding marshal.
There are rules in the archetype that help that out.
Yeah, my thought was if somebody's going to actually no kidding be the marshal, they probably should be the archetype.
And if you take the archetype, there's actually additional knowledge that you get, background knowledge that you get.
So I guess my question then, from the very loose conversations we've had about character concept, John, could I be the martial archetype and still work that way, or is that not feasible?
I mean, that's not the way that archetype is built as far as...
Then NPC martial it is.
Okay. Well, which is fine. I'm actually really kind of good either way.
Yeah, except for the giant intro that I made everybody U.S. Marshals.
Well, you're U.S. deputy marshal.
I know, but that's a big difference. I'll fix it.
When we roll into a small town,
they won't know the difference. Sure. But yeah, okay. Okay.
So, I mean, I'll ask Doug. You said decided to help the marshal and be a deputy. Do you see this guy maybe actually joining the marshal service?
I think after a while, yeah. I think he kind of would at first do it more out of an obligation to his friend or being bored, and then he kind of like, oh, I actually kind of like doing this. Maybe I'll keep it up.
Okay. All right. So you do see him initially as a deputy marshal then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. NPC marshal it is.
Yep.
All right. So what do you have, Mark?
So, all right. And this is not taking any kind of framework or archetype into account, but I think hearing the backstory of the land has kind of helped flesh it out a little bit. I would like to be somebody who was a deputy marshal who got trapped in the Sioux lands and had an encounter with something, and now whenever I am outside of the Sioux lands and I shoot my weapons, I summon a spectral cattle stampede or a pack of wolves, all spectral stuff. But what the part that we hadn't discussed, John, is I think I want there is a price to be paid for this power. And I think every time I use it, it should shorten my life.
Huh. All right. How old were you imagine you were going to start?
Do you mean it ages you, or it shortens your expectancy? Like you get sick?
I hadn't got that far. I was initially just, the power was what I kind of wanted to build the framework around. But then I was kind of thinking that there should be some kind of cost that after I use it 2 or 3 times, I should obviously realize that this is taking some kind of toll.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Not cow stampede. It would be bison or buffalo, probably, if it's from Sioux Nation.
So that's the weird thing. It's not tied, the spectral things that show up are not tied to the Sioux Nation.
Do you have a background reason for what happened to you that this is the case now?
I'm still working that out.
And do you have... I'm only asking...
No.
When we come around,
fair question.
You'll know why. But
okay.
Do you... So this is completely uncontrolled by your character?
I would say probably yes, it's uncontrolled.
They have some rules for that, John. It's deeper in the books, but they have some rules for that.
Because I know in the mechanics, it's all just fluff.
It's just trappings.
Yeah, it's just trappings.
Yeah.
So,
We would say entangle or,
Right.
or push or something. Yeah.
right, yeah. So, it's still an energy blast, just with extra trappings built onto it. But that's kind of my thought, is like anytime I fire a gun, which makes him hesitant to fire casually, I guess would be the best way to say that. So he's going to watch every bullet, but there's got to be some kind of trade-off. And I don't know if it's that he ages faster or he can feel that there's a container and the container is starting to deplete.
So, please tell me, John, if I'm overstepping. But there is a class, an archetype called the Huckster,
Yes, I'm familiar with
which is essentially spellcasters that is the, I hate to put it that way, but that is the non-Native American spellcasting, right?
Right.
And
that's what, when Mark described, that's what I was imagining.
there's
with
actually
Huckster.
a hex slinger form of Huckster that has special abilities that you could tweak into fluff into some of these other things, and it might give you the ability to play with some of your other spells, because again, you're gonna have to choose certain spells.
Right.
So you would
100%.
only choose certain powers. You would
Right,
only
right.
choose
No,
certain
I'm with
powers that you could trap into
Right.
Stampede or Raccoon Chaos or
Right.
Sharknado, whatever.
That's funny, Rick Stevens. The reluctant revolver.
Yeah, that's I saw that too. So can I tell you something that I would like to do with this character as well, John? And this is going to be all you and a yes or no, and work on your end if you do say yes. The most fun character that I ever DM'd was a PC who fell down in a liquor store and hit his head, gave himself amnesia, and the first thing he saw when he looked up was the Captain Morgan bottle, and so he thought he was a pirate. And ever since he had that accident, he became a ghost as well. So it's unclear whether or not he died. But every time one of the things he came to me and he said, I want some power that is absolutely stupid, but I have zero control over it. I don't know when it's going to happen or what it's going to do.
Stupid powerful.
Stupid powerful, and just stupid. He
wanted a dumb, super powerful
I mean, not necessarily like dumb, but he didn't want to know anything about it.
Yep.
He didn't want to know what the power level was, nothing. He just was like, and so what I did is I ended up with this framework where every time he activated his powers, he rolled a D100. And 3.5 years into the campaign, he finally hit it. And since he was a ghost pirate, I had him summon an entire ghost pirate ship with crew and everything and cannons. And it was like this, they were going to die. Like legit, in that circumstance, they were going to die. And this pirate ship came in on the fog inside, a dry dock place, and the cannons blew up most of the bad guys, and the guys were running around with falchions, cutting their heads off, and then it all just, it's gone. And he could never use that power again, never get it again. I want something for this guy, if he lives long enough, that there's a possibility of some unknown power that is completely and wholeheartedly up to you.
Right.
And you may say no, and that's fine. But that has always stuck with me as one of the most, because you should have seen his eyes light up as I was illustrating what was happening. It was the greatest thing that I've ever seen. He was the happiest ghost pirate ever. So anyways, yeah, I would think that, and I want to work with you on what the reason is for what happened to him and why this is happening to him offline. But yeah, I figured something like that could tie into that. And it could just be that my brain explodes.
I like that option.
Yeah, it's totally my power is scanners. It's fine.
That's funny. Yeah, no,
Self-scanners.
that's interesting. And I had a character like that. I played a long time ago, and unfortunately, the campaign never kind of resolved anything, so I never knew what that was. But it's fun to play a character like that. It's fun to run a character like that, and it just adds to. I mean, kind of role playing in a way is game master saying, "Hey, I made these things. I want you guys to kind of experience and find out what it is." And so, what you're talking about is the jolliest Roger, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you're talking about is just really part of that. Is just another part of the story or the world or whatever. Here's a thing that I can reveal to you.
And I'm completely down with having zero control over these powers. Like we could go through and like Daniel said, pick out a list of spells, and maybe one of them is an entangle, but I don't get the option to figure out when that entangle goes off.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm sure
game
there's a way to do
mechanic
it.
wise, you have what amounts to a mana pool you have to draw from in order to cast things, and then um, um, there are higher levels that you can cast with a penalty to give you other effects. So yeah, I need to think, and we'll talk. But
Sure. But that's the basic concept anyways.
so what we have so far is Doug has said basically game wise, what I'm hearing is basically a guy that is a gunslinger, lawman kind of person, right?
Mhm.
As far as if we're going to look at the archetype in Suede, how are we going to make your character, Doug? Is what I'm hearing is basically a guy who shoots well, and may or may not have some kind of law edges to go along with that. Is that kind of what you were imagining?
I was thinking he was kind of more bit of an outlaw at first, and then he kind of he was made friends with the marshal and kind of like, you know what, you're gonna be my deputy from now on. And he just kind of went with it.
Okay. Well, and I get that. I'm talking more game mechanic and you're talking more background, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. So how are you in a game mechanic sense imagining yourself interacting with the game? And is it you're good with pistols,
Yeah.
good with riding?
So maybe a soldier.
Soldier?
Was he a soldier in the Civil War?
I'm still trying to
Suss that out.
decide.
So there are hindrances for a lot of the criminal stuff you were talking about to help kind of balance some stuff out.
Are there have to be, and I haven't really dug deep into the skills yet, but have you seen skills, Daniel, on gambling and things like that?
So, yes-ish.
Is a lot of that through the edges?
So there are a lot of edges that help with that. But there is, what I've seen in live playthroughs of Deadlands so far is when people are gambling, they're actually gambling. Like rolling actual dice or actually playing poker. And some of the edges allow you to sneak an extra card or trade one of your cards with one of the ones from the deck. So if they're using one of those edges, if they're spending a Benny to trade this 3 with another one from the deck because they had a card up their sleeve, then you would just do that in the gambling section.
I see.
But a lot of it comes. So hucksters, and none of us are hucksters, but well, you maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
But hucksters have normal spells and normal power points. They cast spells normally, although it's more like a gambit throwing cards thing in most cases. They have the ability to make a deal with the devil and actually play poker against the spirits that they're drawing magic from. And so a lot of those edges are more pointed towards that. But I don't see any reason why me being good at cheating, playing poker against that spirit, means I would not be good at cheating, playing against a normal dude.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. So, we haven't heard from you, Daniel.
Also of note, there are archetype cards. I have not picked up yet, but they are in when you get your big package of PDFs, and you're going to get archetype cards, and those will be good for you as a GM to throw in somebody that we're up against or that we just met. But it'll also be useful because I'm thinking about buying them anyway for the PDFs. But they'll be useful for like a gunslinger. Here's an example of a gunslinger. Here's an example of a, it has requirements. You have to have a certain skill or attribute above this number, blah, blah, blah. Just like all of the archetypes we used in Rifts. There were requirements and you got special benefits from them. But there are those cards right now for all of the archetypes. So, the archetype my character fits under is going to be a Native American shaman. My character, assuming that I play the same one and that doesn't overstep anyone, or you guys don't think it would be super awkward.
Name do you teach?
Name's Teach, yeah. No, he is a Native American from the Sioux Nation who was taken as a small child with a handful of other children and put into one of these schools to assimilate them into a non-Native American culture, where he was given the name October Smith. There was a huge war in that area because he was essentially in Council Bluffs, which is just outside of where the Sioux Nation is. So he was brought back into the tribe, and when he was brought back into the tribe, he was essentially retrained as his family would have had it if they hadn't all been wiped out. Became a brave. Once he became a brave, the tribe realized that he had some interest and some ability as a shaman, and so he passed to essentially apprenticeship with the tribe's shaman and became a shaman. So he was a brave and also a shaman. Some stuff happened. He helped fight for the Sioux Nation because that's what he is. And depending on what John and I agree on, he is still very much part of the Sioux Nation. He is a warrior for them, and at any point, because of some of the responsibilities, and I'm using that term to say what we were talking about the other day, John, if the Sioux Nation calls and requests his assistance, he drops everything and immediately rides back to help. But until then, he is trying his best to be diplomatic and assist anyone he can because he knows that the world is a very dark place, and if no one stands to fight the darkness, then we're all going to be in the same hole.
Cool.
So
there were several large battles with some really messed up creatures that he helped and took part with, which is why he is who he is. And when you were saying your character was from there as well, or found himself to be there,
right,
it could easily be that you did something while there that impressed the tribe, and that I was part of helping get you out of the territory safely.
So that's I guess that's a geopolitical question of the time that I have then is what is the relationship between the Sioux Nation and the East and the West U.S. at this point?
So at this point, there actually are like any culture or any civilization or whatever, there are multiple factions. They're absolutely among the Sioux Nations. We hate all Europeans, get off our continent, go back to Europe. we're going to wipe you. That is a part of the Sioux Nations. However, there are others, and especially younger Sioux, that kind of look and say, well, antibiotics are saving people's lives. There's easier ways to farm crops. They're kind of like, well, we want to embrace our Sioux-ness, our culture and everything, but we also let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, basically. Hey, I think we can embrace some of this stuff, and I think it can be better for everybody. So both of those exist.
So the U.S. has made deals with the Sioux Nation to identify and keep safe certain townships, like Deadwood, for example, which is well within the Sioux Nation. It is not a Native American town.
So that's kind of my follow-up question is, are there times that U.S. Marshals go into Sioux territory?
Yes.
To assist?
Yes.
Okay.
Typically, you would go to Deadwood. You would say, hey, this outlaw, Bob Jones, pulled it, from nowhere, is an outlaw we're hunting. And the Sioux are like, yeah, we don't want him here. Thanks for letting us know. Go get him.
Yeah. Okay. Then yes, I would like to work with you on that because I think that'll be a good time.
And I think of the weeks that we were traveling to get out of the territory, we probably became friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
Something about his blood is chaos. I need to get him out of here before he tramples another tribe township.
Every time you try to use my lighter, it just falls apart.
Now, interestingly, I've not really looked into this, but one thing I thought was interesting is if you look at the Deadlands map, and this is something I'm going to have to look into, it shows train tracks going through the Sioux Nations and train tracks going to Deadwood. And when I was reading the section where they talked about what we just talked about how people going to Deadwood, they talked about coming off the train. And so there must be some kind of bizarre exclusionary whatever for the train to cross the Sioux Nations and get to Deadwood. And if that's something we need to talk about later, because I see the grin.
Yeah, there's stuff I can talk to you about offline if you'd like. So I was wondering the same thing. So I looked up some of this information, and
It has to do with a particular sentinel?
There is a lot of it that has to do with sentinels and some other stuff specific to the Sioux Nation that work with that. But I don't think it's information. I don't think it's information that the players need right now, but also that the players would know.
Right. Although I do, it kind of almost, when you see tracks going across Sioux Nation, it is the first question you're probably going to have to your mind.
Well, no, it's not, because that's something that mirrors today. You pay people enough money, they let you run train tracks. So, sure, the Sioux Nation is working out just fine from that deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, yeah, cool. That's very interesting. I like this entire setup.
Yeah. So, yeah. So what do you think? Just kind of looking at it, we have a shaman, we have what might end up being a huckster, we have a ex-soldier, gambler, rich bad boy, starting down the straight and narrow, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes me think about
It actually does kind of sound like Wild Wild West.
Yeah. Well, it also reminded me of what was James Garner played a gambler that was
Maverick.
Maverick. Yeah, that was what I was thinking of. Absolutely. There it is.
Never watched the show, but I saw the Mel Gibson movie.
I love the Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah.
Maverick.
But that's like Wild Wild West. I've maybe seen an episode or a handful of episodes, but I've seen the movie.
Oh no, the series is so much better than the movie.
Really?
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
It's like it's one of those things where like you know sometimes we look at comic adaptations like what's the one with the curving bullets? Wanted. Oh my god, that was such a horrible adaptation. But yet everybody's only seen the movie. And that's sad because the comic is way better. Yeah. Also way worse. Way worse. But this is one of those things where the whole thing is like the series is fantastic. And I highly recommend anybody to watch it if you like Westerns and you like weirdness. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Teal Soul.
Yes, thank you. Give you a shout out. Teal.
So yeah, it's this is going to be interesting. So it sounds like the track we're going to go is our marshal will be an NPC. So I'll set out to create him and try to figure out how the three of you are attached to this guy.
Please make him Cheech from Cheech and Chong. Just the easiest going marshal you'll ever meet. Getting up to hijinks with this
comes in, makes his coffee, hands his coffee
That's
cups,
right.
sits us down in a comfortable area and tells us our mission.
Yeah, what do you guys want to do today?
I'm here to support you, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Kind of not what I had in mind.
Of course, we are playing in a world where fear level is a thing, so probably not.
Probably not. But I could. Jimmy says he feels attacked. It's just like a kinder, gentler, more stoned version of Charlie, and We're the Angels.
So are we gonna have to start every stream like this now?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
That'd be amazing. Yeah. So, my question would be, since you're going to work on the marshal and how he's attached to each of us, we can also, from our end, think of options that maybe tie us to that marshal specifically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Doug's already done that, right? We already know from what Doug has talked about that somehow you already know this marshal. That I think you said that you're friends with him. Yeah. And I mean, one of the thoughts, and we can talk about this when we talk one-on-one to actually make the character. One of the thoughts I had is, he's probably arrested you one too many times.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
The rogue and the paladin?
Yep.
Well, and I think ours is pretty easy to tie into that, to be honest, because if I would have been considered a valuable asset by the Sioux to give protection to get out of the territories, then probably somebody would have notified the U.S. Marshals about that, and I was drafted into service.
Yeah. So you weren't a marshal when you went into the territory.
Or I could be, but even so, then I would be like an asset for the U.S. Marshal Service, and maybe he was the closest one that was available to go and pick.
So I'm gonna ask you this question again because he asked you earlier. What age are you looking at? Because here's my thought. When you were kidnapped, lost, part of a train that disappeared in the Sioux Nation,
right.
If you were already a marshal, perhaps you spent enough time in the Sioux Nation that what made you a marshal is no longer the requirement. Which is why you have the martial archetype. You've spent so much time not living that life that you can't even really claim it anymore. And I'm not saying you have to be like, 90 years old, but if you were a young marshal who was on his first stint
Right.
and just spent 10 years in the Sioux Nation, first trying to survive and then trying to fit in, even if you were in and out of places like Deadwood, perhaps that's an option. So you still are a marshal, and that's part of the reason that I'm trying to get you to back to your people and back to the U.S. border, and maybe that's why you were pressed into service, is that you and I both give this martial group an edge when it comes to areas that they don't usually touch.
The weird side.
The weird side. The areas of the Sioux Nation.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. I mean, I would think he could probably, like, even if he went in, because if we're talking about 1880s, I mean, you were usually drafted into service by like 16, 15, something like that.
If you were lucky.
If you were lucky, yeah. So, I mean, I would think if he went in, he became a deputy at that point from wherever he was, and then ended up, like you said, whatever reason, in the Sioux Territory. He could easily have spent 10 years there for sure. And then that way, I mean, and I kind of actually like it almost better that I don't know what happened in those 10 years. But then I showed up and helped in whatever battle, and then now they're trying to get me out to work against, that's maybe why the marshals are going west for some reason. And that's something maybe that you can control, John, as that side. But that's kind of my thought is, yeah.
Yeah, I think you have a point there, Terror Engine. However, if it does seem like we're talking things to death, it is because it's the entire point of this particular stream is specifically to talk things to death. But yeah, that's that certainly is one way to do things. Is not everything does have to be thought to death. So that's actually a good point.
Can we make requests of train cars that we'd like?
I was imagining, and it is up for discussion, but my vision when I saw the train was literally the train out of the Wild Wild West, which was an engine, a coal car, and then the fancy passenger car they had.
I'd only make one request, and that is a livestock car.
A livestock car? You want a cattle car?
Yes. For horses.
Oh, well, yeah, you know what? That is kind of funny, because now that I think about it, every time they got somewhere, they had their horses, but I don't think they ever did show a livestock car on the train. So where the heck did they put the horses?
And I'm thinking, and I know, John, you're going to rail me if I'm getting too far out of the line.
No pun intended.
Yeah. I'm thinking there should be another NPC. And that's the car that NPC lives in, and it is the laboratory. Because if whatever...
It's a CSI lab?
No, more like the mad scientist type, right?
Well,
because
it's Artemis. You're wanting Artemis.
Yeah, because here's the deal. Because if there's some big weird war that happened in the Sioux Nation and they're sending us west, it's for a reason. And so they would want somebody there who could utilize ghost coal or ghost rock or stuff like that to be able to aid or do research or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of like Artemis.
So just for the sake of clarity, we're not spending a bunch of time in the Sioux Nation, right?
No.
Because the use of ghost rock in the Sioux Nation is not good.
No. I assumed we would not be in the Sioux Nation.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of my thought is exactly like you said, an Artemis type who could research the weird stuff that we encounter, maybe formulate plans against it, and it can be an NPC. It doesn't need to be.
That's true.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good idea. I actually like that. That gives me some ideas too. And matter of fact, one of my thoughts was part of your commission as deputy marshals was that you would be told to confiscate's the wrong word. What does the government do when it takes stuff from people?
Acquire,
take. Well, there's an official word. Help me upstream. But anyway, you guys would, and my thought was that you would be told, look, if it's being used for good uses by good people, we're going to leave it be for now. But anywhere else you come across Ghost Rock, we want you to go ahead and you're going to bring that back.
right?
And that'll, from that point on, be property of the U.S. government.
And that's when it becomes like XCOM and how can we use the Ghost Rock to add more cars to the train that do different things, produce different types of units. Sorry, video game.
So, yeah, I like that. What you thinking, Doug?
Come back to me.
Okay, fair enough. You just been quiet for a while. I thought I'd let you interject if you wanted to.
I'm still.
Okay, awesome.
Besides, I got to have somebody to develop that Airwolf prototype.
They may or may not have helicopters already.
Great.
Time travel.
They don't have Airwolf. It can go upside down.
I became a fan.
And in space.
So these helicopters can go upside down too.
No.
Once.
Not like Airwolf. Not like Airwolf.
Not a Bell 222.
Yeah. Reminds me of an NCO one time telling me early in my career that, you're allowed to do anything in the military you want. Pause. Once. Yeah. So yeah, great. So
as you guys are thinking about building these characters, also think about what kinds of hindrances or flaws they might have, as well as what little bonuses you might think of, because there's a bunch in the books, but it'll give you a heads up. So if your character has an addiction or is ill often or hits like a Mack truck, like small things like that.
Well, I'm pretty sure mechanically I'm going to be gimping myself anyways, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, more than just the player?
Well, because technically the power is supposed to be shooting a bullet, so I'm going to have points in shooting. Yeah. And then his trappings for the other, but where all those points are still going to go into power.
Well, I mean, you still have the same number. That's...
No.
So you're still going to have the same number of points for your abilities as I do, same number of points for your skills as I do, but you'll probably have a shooting skill and a spellcasting skill.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean.
And so, yeah, I mean, the same as me. Doug's the only one that's going to get out of here with any actual skills.
Yeah, he's gonna be the one that shoots the best out of all of us. So you will seem like Doc Holliday, to be honest. So that'll work out well. It's like we're rolling D4s.
Wow, look how bad those guys are.
Yeah.
Wow, look how amazing that guy is.
We have D4s and D6s while Doug has a D12 for shooting everything. It's gonna be great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, we know, Rick. We're just commiserating. That's all.
Yeah,
that's part of why I was saying, Rick,
Yeah.
to look into what hindrances you might want so that it's good when we make characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also thought, by the way, that we were going to start at the seasoned level, which will help a little bit with what you're talking about.
So are you thinking 4? I think 4 is the starter or the start for seasoned.
Yeah, I think I was debating between 3 and 4.
Okay.
I was actually kind of leaning on. Let me get my book.
I think traditionally 1 through 3 is novice, 4 through 6 is seasoned.
Yeah, and I think 7 starts whatever
7
the next
starts
one is.
veteran, I think.
Yeah.
And this one actually has legendary for some of the abilities. Yeah. Although I don't anticipate we're going to live that long.
Yeah, 4. You're right, 4.
That was a nice pause right there, because I anticipate we're not going to live that long. And then John's like, "Yeah, 4." Yeah.
You know, one of the games I thought about running is, which I think 2 of you at least that know me well might be surprised to hear it, but I actually thought about running Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I'm surprised too.
And
Are you feeling okay?
but the particular campaign would be my favorite Dungeons and Dragons campaign, which is Dark Sun.
Yeah.
Oh,
And which I absolutely have a passion for Dark Sun. I actually went to a Gen Con when that was first released and actually met the guys that wrote it and met Brahm, the artist that kind of created things. It was just as an off. They said that when Brahm would draw some art, that they would then have to try to figure out what the name of the thing was and how much damage it would do and what its game effect would do, because he was drawing all these weird things. But what I thought was interesting and why I bring it up is you were mentioning, I think we won't last long. What I thought was cool about the original Dark Suns was you actually rolled 3 or 4. I think it was 4 characters. Might have been 3, but I think it was 4. And when you leveled any of the characters, the other characters you weren't playing for that session also got experience points. And so, because with Dark Suns, it was expected that your characters were going to die left and right. And so you always had other characters kind of going at the same time so that you could say, okay, well, my gladiator just died. Well, now I have this Strike Green whatever guy that's now just, here he's going to step up to the plate. So anyway, when you said, we're going to die quick, it made me think of that. Sorry.
no, you're good.
Odd segue. But yeah, Dark Sun rules. You're right. Terror Engine. Love Dark Suns. I'm not a fan. I hope sorry to offend anybody, but I'm not a fan of fantasy worlds. I'm a science fiction guy through and through. I also like horror. And so, just straight up fantasy, not my thing, but there's just something about Dark Suns that I absolutely love. And I had a Dark Suns campaign I ran many, many years ago, and I was thinking, it might be fun to bring that back. But anyway, Deadlands won out, and here we are. So yes, you're right. 4, starting at rank 4, seasoned. I have been debating back and forth, and I haven't made a decision yet. I'm kind of curious about your thoughts. I have thought about using the Born a Hero rule, but I kind of like that, but I think it fits more for Rifts. I think that might be a bit much for this campaign. What do you think of that, Daniel?
Can you remind me what that one is?
So, Born a Hero, it's really short, so I'll read the whole thing. Heroes may ignore rank qualifications for edges during character creation. They must still meet any other requirements as usual. The usual rules for rank requirements apply afterwards.
Doesn't it also get you a roll on the equipment table?
So that's Rifts.
That's
This
Rifts.
doesn't have an equipment table.
Okay.
You're not wrong.
Yeah,
That's a
okay.
special Rifts.
Okay,
rule.
got it.
So for this, as a player, and that's what I thought it was, as a player, I love that. As a fellow GM, I've seen these edges.
Be fine.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, the problem is I'm trying to switch my brain from Rifts to Deadlands, because for Rifts, honestly, you couldn't. There was nothing you could do to overpower what I was doing in Rifts.
So I don't think anything we do, even Mark, who likes to power game and make his characters super, super, super powerful with no problems at all, like strong enough that they jump into holes, just not knowing where life is going to happen. I think what edges would allow us to do, especially for this game that we may or may not be playing for a long period of time, because of the other game that we have on the shelf, right?
Right.
What that would allow us to do is make our characters as we want them now. That's what that would allow us to do. Instead of biding our time and hoping that we get enough ranks or advances to get those edges down the line to be the character we see in our head. That would be the biggest difference.
I'll be honest, I like that. Star Wars, it's a Lucas thing, in media res. We've had the conversation. Why I love Traveler. Traveler, you start with an experienced character, and I kind of love those stories. It's great to see the guy start out with a loincloth and a club, but sometimes it's nice to see the seasoned adventurer already have his thing. So yeah, you talked me into it, Daniel. So we're gonna start at 4. We're gonna start Born a Hero, and
I mean, you can always do flashbacks where you give us nerfed versions of our characters for that flashback thing, and that's when I jump in the hole.
Yeah.
Because I know survive, so it's all good.
Just so you guys know, he's done that to me 3 times.
Jumped in a hole.
Jumped in a hole, knowing his character will probably die, and leaving it up to me to figure out how his character doesn't die so that the story can continue.
The moral of the story is, as a DM, don't do flashbacks.
I only did flashbacks the first time.
I know, that's true. That's true.
Oh,
it was only the first time.
I was trying to figure out why you were worried about him surviving. I see it was a flashback.
flashback.
The first one was a flashback.
Yeah, the other ones were just because it was funny. Because I like it when he gets the faraway stare and you can see the math symbols going past his head.
Just so you guys know, this Sunday is Mark's birthday.
It is my birthday on Sunday.
And there may or may not be an opportunity for him to jump in a hole.
I'm looking forward to that opportunity.
And he specifically asked that this be an end point for this character.
It could definitely be an end point for this character.
I'd actually somehow forgotten about that. That is definitely a stream I'm going to be tuned in on.
So that was the community reward that we put up about a month ago, and it got smashed out of the park. 2 days, 15,000 points. This Sunday at 10 p.m. or 10
a.m.
10 a.m. Pacific is what I was trying to say. My brain didn't work. 10 a.m. Pacific, 12 Central, 1 Eastern. We will be doing a one-shot streamer D&D session. 5 streamers, Jag Leisure, Persephone 13, Bearden, Mystical Panda, and Sleep Deprived, who have never played a tabletop role-playing game before. And so we're going to put them in a game with me. This is actually supposed to be the culmination, supposedly, of an 18-year-long story.
You will have an option. Mm-hmm. You'll have several options.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For this to be the culmination of 17 years of stories.
Yes. So it's pretty crazy, but that's going to be my birthday present that Daniel is DMing for me. So I'm super excited about it. So if you can join us on Sunday, please do make sure to mark that on your calendar. It should be a very good time. I've spoken with all of the players. They're all super excited about it. They have no idea what to expect. A couple of them have some idea, but the others have like zero expectations or ideas. So it should be a pretty wild ride to see them play for the first time. What else do we need to do tonight, my good friend?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, and I was
Not to go way off track.
kind of,
not to go way off track, which we did. Sorry.
But I think Burning Hero.
Contemplating Terror Engine's thought there, and I don't think we're going to do gritty damage, but you're right. That is exactly like you said. That would be a wild ride.
I mean, gritty damage only works if we're in Philadelphia, right?
So, Doug, I know a lot of this probably flew right by you. I don't think you have a lot of experience playing Savage Worlds. The three of us have been playing Savage Worlds for 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So when we do the session that is going to be character building, we'll have the books open and we can go through all of the edges and hindrances, and unless you want to do that one-on-one, John, but that would be.
I kind of thought we would, because I think actually getting down, making the character and whatever probably would be a one-on-one thing.
Okay.
But I mean, it's kind of up to Mark. We can stream that if that's something you want to do. If we're only doing that on Thursdays, it might take a session or two to get everybody's character made. But then again, we'll all be there, and maybe it can be more of a team effort, and that might not be a bad thing either.
So I know I've played with Daniel for almost 20 years. I know Doug through third-hand accounts. I believe everybody here, like as far as my stuff and my backstory and that stuff, I don't have a problem. I believe everybody can keep player knowledge and character knowledge separate.
Okay.
So I have no problem. It's whether or not anybody else does. That just because I'm okay with it doesn't mean that anybody else does.
I literally gave you guys like 80% of what I talked to John about already.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I've been talking about my backstory too. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so then next Thursday, we'll actually go ahead and stream character creation.
Perfect.
I'll make sure we're going to be using Roll20, and I will make sure that between now and then, I actually create the game, and we can. I'll have the character sheets.
You really threw me off, John, between me going to the starting soon screen and then us going live, because I had that beautiful Rifts picture up, and then when I came back live, I have this text block about Grant being elected president. I'm like,
where's that coming from?
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on? And then I realized, he's modifying the Rifts game. Because I was like, I need something to put in the holes in the layout. So I just pulled up the Rifts game to throw in there, and I was so confused.
If you move it, I actually put a Deadlands picture up.
Here, let's see.
So I gave you the timeline, but to the right of it, there's actually a Deadlands picture there for you too.
Oh, nice.
I did that at the very beginning before we even started streaming. Because you said, I'm just going to put Rifts there, and it was smoking buildings, sci-fi buildings. I was like, well, that's not right. So there you go.
So Doug, anytime, I don't know what your full background for role-playing is. Have you played multiple games before, or just one, or what's your level of expertise there?
It's been a while since I played anything, but I've been playing Dan's Eberron D&D, but mostly D&D and Star Wars.
D&D, Star Wars, Starfinder.
Oh, and Vampire.
And Vampire.
Oh, well,
yeah.
You're pro. Okay.
Starfinder,
He's played a handful of the ones I've run over the last 7 years.
Yeah, so there's we're happy to help with anything you need, because it's not very different than the others. Obviously, the only thing that's different is initiative, because that's done with cards, and but character generation is going to be pretty much the same. So
Yeah. The only big difference is like in D&D, you have a 16 strength. And in Savage World, instead of having a number, you actually have a die type.
yeah,
Okay.
Right. So in vigor, which is kind of constitution, you might have a D8. Right. That is your score. Right. And so, which is kind of cool, because if I tell you, okay, make a bigger roll because you've been poisoned, or because you fell down and you got the wind knocked out, whatever. Right. If you're going to make a roll against your vigor, you just use the die type that's attached right there to your vigor.
and that's why we're joking that Daniel and I will shoot and will miss everything, whereas you will hit everything, because you're not taking foo-foo spell mechanics on top of shooting stuff. So we'll have D4s, you'll have D12s, you'll hit everything all the time, and we'll hit things once in a while, but it'd be really cool when it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
All right. So so that's a plan. So next Thursday we will make characters. So flesh out those concepts. And we've got PDFs for you, Doug, if you haven't seen them. I'll make sure you get those if you want to read through some of the character stuff between now and then. I will actually create the Roll20 game and have that ready. And by the way, Mark, I just want to say the intro, and I didn't hear the music, so I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the stream. But that intro was epic. I sent you a thing and you were like, oh, I already made it. And I was like, oh man, I kind of had my heart set on something that was kind of Wild Wild West themed. And then today I saw what you did and I was like, oh, never mind. I'm good. I'm good.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
I don't know. You'll have to tell me later how you did that, but that was freaking epic.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear. So I think what we're going to do here is, as we end the stream, we're going to raid out, because there is another TTRPG channel that always raids me, and I never get to raid them because we never end early enough. Normally our games go to like 10 and they stop at like 9. And so here they're actually still going and we can raid them. So we're going to raid Redemption VA. As always, wow, I totally did not get everything done for this. I don't even have our credits at the end. So let me go through it in my head. As always, thanks everybody for joining us on our Twitch stream. You're already, if you're in here, you're already following, and we appreciate you for that. You do not need to subscribe, but if you do, you become one of our rock stars and get your name on every single show that we do as a producer. On YouTube, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and of course the bell icon to be notified whenever we upload new content, which is almost every single day of the week, Monday through Friday. And last but not least, no matter where you're watching from, patreon.com/gamersledge gets your name on every single show that we do for as little as $1 a month, and your name on our patrons and producers list. And I would roll that now, but I am a bad host and did not get that done ahead of time. So I will make sure it's ready to go for next week when we do session 0. This has been session -1, Creation of a Myth, for Deadlands. Thank you to John. Thank you to Doug. Thank you, Daniel. We'll do our schedule. We'll be back tomorrow at 7:15 p.m. Pacific, 9:15 Central, 10:15 Eastern. I don't know if we're... Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry. Our next show, will be at 5 p.m. Pacific. It'll be our 4 DMs, 1 idea show. We're going to have Daniel and Rick Stevens and Gamer Mom Luna on tomorrow evening, so make sure you check that out at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. And then after that show finishes at 7:15 Pacific, 9:15 Central, 10:15 Eastern, we will be back with either our podcast or our Fun with Friends Friday. I have to double check. We've got some folks that are out for medical stuff, so I'm not sure if we'll do the podcast tomorrow or not. But watch Twitter as always, at Gamers Ledge to find out more up to the moment scheduling changes. So we'll do our schedule now, and then we'll read out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, be excellent to each other, and game on.
Game on.
Game on.
See ya.